I tell you, this is good. Hey, everybody, Steve here. Welcome to The Varied Life. I am the retired hobby tech guy, and today we're going to be talking about some cool stuff, and part of that is going to be this right here. Warning, this could upset the apple cart or not. We're not sure. We're going to tell. The Creality K2, the Creality K2 Pro, the Creality Hi, and the rumored Creality dual extruder machine. Now we're going to go over this and kind of glean what information we can from the interwebs, and we're going to talk about this, and maybe we can get down to kind of like a timeline of when we will see the dual extruder. Now, I got a couple thoughts on this, and I don't know. They might be right and they might be wrong. I'm not sure. So the first thing we're going to end up doing is taking a look at the rumored K2 and the K2 Pro. So for those of you who don't know, Creality is a company that makes 3D printers. They also do laser engravers, which is interesting because I have the laser engraving bug as well. So I'm in the market for a laser engraver. So maybe the Falcon, they came out with that. We'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of partial to the Raleigh Laser Matic. The new Galvo laser that they have coming out looks really nice. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about the Creality K2 and the K2 Pro. So let's jump right into it. And courtesy of All3DP, free article, Creality reveals the K2 and the K2 Pro 3D printers at Rapid Plus TCT. That is held in, I think, Chicago or Detroit. Yes, Detroit. The printers will seemingly bracket the K2 Plus to make up the K2 series lineup. So what we're looking at here is basically the K2 Plus has a build area of 350 cubed, has all kinds of great bells and whistles on it, and for the most part it's working out pretty good for me. I'm enjoying it. A lot of people are having problems. But these are the other two that are coming up, and it's going to compete basically with the Bamboo P1S and the P1P. I'm kind of getting that feel. We're playing the catch-up game, so we're going to take a look at this. Spec-wise, the differences revolve around the build volume. So the K2 comes in at 260 millimeters, which is bigger than the Bamboo. You know, when you're looking at those, the build area is 256 cubes, so really 4 millimeters difference. What is that in freedom units? It's about 0.15 inches. So, yeah, it's a little bit bigger. And the K2 Pro comes in at 300 millimeters. So I think that's more attractive, but it also comes in with an actively heated chamber, but the K2 does not have that. The K2 Pro also boasts compatibility with Ethernet and boasts of 32 gig of storage, whereas the K2 appears to only have Wi-Fi. So the Pro is kind of interesting because it has that memory on there, and if you have a print farm, what you can end up doing is, you have a bunch of these machines, and that's the reason why you have these. The memory on board is so that way you can load up the files that you want to do, and so when you go down either through the computer or Wi-Fi or Ethernet, or you could just go up to each machine, and as it's done you clear off the print and you could hit print again, or you could choose and select a different item to print of like your main items that you sell for those people that do print farm stuff. That's kind of a good little thing there. So the K2 appears only to have Wi-Fi, which is pretty good. I guess that would kind of appeal more to just makers and hobbyists, not people that are doing side gigs. But, you could do that with Wi-Fi as well. It's just an added bonus to be able to do that with the K2 Pro and having that not online storage, but the storage on the machine itself. So there it is. And then, of course, we also have the Space Pi down here, which is the 4, which is a filament heater and dryer. And it's broken up into 2 sections so that you can put 2 spools into each section, and they're individually heated. So if you add different materials, the cool thing about that right there is, so you got 2 different sections. So you could put 2 spools here, 2 spools here. You could dry 200 watt and 200 watt PTC heaters, dual heating chambers, active dehumidification, and yeah, and of course I just bought my Space Pi Plus, so go figure. Of course they came out with something better. And what we end up seeing with the Pro version here, it looks kind of pretty much the same. And if we zoom in there, we can see that, yeah, you could barely make out the 300. And let's see if we can, no, I think it's about it. Actively heated chamber. It's got a new UI that is supposed to be coming out, so that's kind of interesting. Both of these are compatible with the CFS units, and the CFS unit that I haven't had any problems with. So it seems like the earlier problems that they had, of course, a lot of companies that do 3D printers, I guess, don't do enough testing. So they run into problems, and then the early adopters are I guess you could say, the beta testers. And that's if things work out well. Other notable features include a 300C extruders, step servo motors on all axes, advanced cooling system, which I don't know if that would be an advanced cooling system. Let's see if we can. That is the K2 combo. And we still see the fan on the side. Don't see anything really crazy with that we could glean from that. The display, it's supposed to be an updated UI on these things. It still kind of looks the same as the K2 Plus, so that'll be kind of interesting to take a look at. Let's see what else we got. Advanced cooling system, 3 nozzle sizes, which I'm assuming is going to be the 0.2, 0.4, and 0.6. 0.8, I don't really think that's a thing. I know a lot of people that do side gigs and sell car parts or make car parts and different things like that, components. A lot of people go to the 0.6 because you're going to get faster. You're going to get faster build times on those items compared to the 0.4, and the savings is really going to come. So if you save a half hour to 45 minutes on a print, that's kind of a significant deal when we're talking about money and turnover, because the more products you make and the more products you sell, if it takes more time to make it, then you produce less products, so you don't make as much money. Auto calibration, onboard AI cameras. I think it's basically going to be the shrunk down versions of the K2 Plus and redesigned UI, user interface, which I'd be interested to see more on that. And obviously we will. The announcement comes a year after the K2 Plus, a 350 cubed printer, and the scaled up blend of the K2 and K2 Pro, with a few minor differences. A 350 Celsius extruder, for example. The K2 Pro are eyeing for a third quarter release date, so that's kind of good. No word on pricing, although we expect the K2 Plus to be a mid-tier option, bracketed first by the K2 with the K2 Pro on the higher end. Of course, they say it's all conjecture. People are making all types of guesses. My guess is that what's going to happen with the K2 and the K2 Pro is that they're going to be competitively priced with like the Bamboo P1S and P1P and maybe not the X1C, because that was a little bit expensive. Greg comes up and talks about and says, let's see if we can make this a little better. No functional difference between wired Ethernet and Wi-Fi. They are the same protocol, and both are highly secure. Yeah, that's absolutely true. The difference that I'm talking about, though, is that some people, and I didn't explain this, but for print farms and things like that, people who do side gigs or doing work for clients who don't want that information out on the interwebs or access to the interwebs on any way, shape, or form, which Wi-Fi does that, you can connect up using Ethernet. Or you can go old school and do the USB, or you can store the files or the models that you want to print on the machine, which would be the Pro version, and then you could choose that off of the display and print without the online Wi-Fi being activated. So in other words, it's a closed ecosystem and you're able to do what you want. Unlike Bamboo Labs, which requires everybody now to do the online authorization, and we went through that whole thing. And that just gave me a bad taste in my mouth. Let's little rant here. We'll talk about the Bamboo. Bamboo, I was really surprised when they locked down their system, claiming it was for our security. And it really isn't, because they said, we're going to do that, and it's all for your security. But really, the security was on their side that was being compromised. They even said that they got like 3 million hits a day on their servers. And so your answer to that is to get an authorization for all machines, all of their machines, if you do the firmware update. And of course, all new machines that come out will require this. And so it's just kind of like, somebody says, don't get wet, but we want you to come out into the rain. And it just doesn't make any sense. So a lot of people were messed up with that. Wi-Fi does not automatically put anything on the web any more than wired Ethernet. No, but if I have Wi-Fi, somebody can hack into my Wi-Fi, whereas on the Ethernet and I'm not hooked up to the internet, they can't get in. That's what I'm talking about, Greg. So Greg goes on and he says, you have a router, a firewall for both. Yes, that's absolutely true, and I do. And so do many other people. But I've actually talked to people who do 3D printing business, and they have clients that don't want their models because maybe they're doing prototyping and things like that. They don't want that information sent out and or have that capability. And during my time in the military, and then of course working as an electronics technician for the state of Colorado, I've worked in closed systems where we would contract and have programs and security that deal with cameras and PTZs and fiber optics and security fences in zones. When an active zone was activated, then you have cameras, automatically going in and everything and recording video, which went into it went into files that could be used in court. So there has to be a chain of evidence, and it can't be broken, and it couldn't have access. It couldn't even have Wi-Fi. So that was one of the requirements that we had for a lot of the contractors when I worked for the state of Colorado, and some of them didn't. They left in the little Wi-Fi, and then they had to redo everything. So when I'm talking about that, when you say that, nope, both are secure, I have to disagree based on the experience as an electronics technician for over 11 years in the state of Colorado and working with contractors. There is a difference. And because we've actually seen it where people have hacked into the Colorado Department of Corrections when, even though the Wi-Fi wasn't activated, they were able to get into the system. They were able to get data and things like that. And it's just kind of amazing. So, I got to disagree with you there. And then Greg says, I've had a TS clearance. I'm well aware of security issues. They don't exist in a commercial setting. I would have to disagree, because you have some people that in a commercial setting, they don't want their items. And you can talk to a prime example of this is 3D Musketeers, Grant at 3D Musketeers. And really it ends up that, he has clients. There's a number of people that I've talked to that do work where their clients do not want any access. And it should be interesting to note that you say that there isn't a security difference. It's policy, and yes, 40 years experience in secure environments. So, okay, that's great. The other thing is it's policy, it's not technical. I would disagree in the fact that we have had, at least at the Colorado Department of Corrections as an electronics technician, that we actually had people hack into systems and compromised data and files and video and audio and things like that. So even though it wasn't there. So yes, there's a policy. It's not technical, but people were able to hack into it. And matter of fact, case in point, when the inmates in the Colorado Department of Corrections ended up getting tablets, even though the Wi-Fi module was disabled, they were still able to get into that and hack into the pay system for the Colorado Department of Corrections. So in other words, they could fraudulently take money and put it on their books, on their accounts, and then they could put money on other people's accounts on systems and that's the reason why they couldn't do the Wi-Fi. So yeah, I would say it is a thing. There is a big difference between having Wi-Fi and not having it activated. Well, how do you activate it? You activate it with software, you activate it with code. So yeah, I would say it's not just policy. I've actually seen it in person. I've actually done it after we had an inmate show us how they did it with the tablets that were assured by the contractors and the company that supplied the tablets that there's no way on God's green earth that they were able to access or get out online onto the interwebs, and they actually were. And it even got to the place where some accessed the internet and were able to download videos and pictures. Of course, it was all porn and stuff like that. So, yeah. The thing is, same for wired. No, I don't think so, because if there's no data that can be had, in other words, if there's no files that they can access, that they can't hook up to, there's no server, there's no file cabinet, if you will, that they would be able to get that information. Okay, those data, those files, you can't get that information if it's not there. And if it's a wired system, you can't get that because there's no file folder available. And of course, the systems that they could hook up into after we did all the changes and everything and got with the contractors, and they were pretty pissed off. They lost some money. But yeah, that's just the way it is. So anyway, besides that, we're getting off the point of the K2 and the K2 Plus, which is going to come out in the third quarter of this year. So that's going to be kind of interesting, because this kind of gives us a timeline on what's going to pop up next in regards to the next thing that comes into play. And we still got a little bit of information on here. So for example, what we end up seeing, this is on the Reddit, the Creality K2 Pro, Ethernet, the online or the on-machine storage for storing files, kind of similar to what we see with the K2 Plus, which is, by the way, kind of handy. I've used that a few times. There's a number of items that I have printed for some people so far where I print one, it's done, and it says, okay, you're done, or do you want to print again? So I like having that option on there. 300 cube build area, active heated chamber, 60 Celsius, which is good because that means that you can print with a majority of the esoteric or, high-tech filaments that are out there. High temp extruder, nozzle, 300C, hardened steel, which is good. Everybody's kind of getting away from the brass nozzle. It'd be interesting if Diamondback comes into play or the obsidian and things like that, start putting out some nozzles for the K2. And of course, I imagine, I can only guess, but the K2 Pro and the K2. Of course, we have the input shaping, the nozzles, Wi-Fi, 16 color CFS, advanced cooling system, all new UI, which is interesting because I'm wondering if the UI is going to be transferred over and the K2 Plus is going to get that UI upgrade as well. So that should be interesting. For the regular K2, we're down to a 260 cube build area, sturdy frame, as with them. Kind of the same thing, advanced cooling system, so it's just kind of a dumbed down version, but we don't have the online storage that we had with the K2 Pro. So yeah, that really brings it into a place of where, Creality is definitely competing and playing catch up with Bamboo. So the interesting thing about that is what we will end up seeing. What we end up seeing is the catch-up game with a bunch of different companies, and these other companies are putting these products out on the market at an extremely low price point. We've seen the Elegoo Centauri Carbon. We've seen that as a low price point. I mean, disgustingly low. So trying to flood the market. I don't know if they knew about the tariffs that were going to be, coming afoot, or if they're just trying to sell as many systems as they can to compete with Bamboo and take over that market share, flooding, But that's what a lot of them seem to be doing. So the prices that used to be up here are being cut drastically, all tariffs aside. It'll be interesting to see what the prices of these, but they'll probably be, my guess is around the Bamboo price range for those compatible or similar systems that they have. Actually, I think they'll be undercut a bit, so that way, they'll, if people are looking at getting a system, they're going to have to compete with Bamboo, who just put out their H2D, which looks like a really good system. I don't agree with their authorization thing, but that's neither here nor there. But that should drive the prices down on the X1C, the X1C, the P1P, and P1S. And so all those prices should come down. So the interesting thing is, will this Creality K2 and the K2 Pro, will Creality respond and bring those prices even a little bit lower to capture that market share, and try to get that business from Bamboo and draw them into their ecosystem? So, but they have a lot to go for, and they have a lot to do to be able to get up to the level that Bamboo is as far as usability. And I can say, just dealing with the K2 Plus, in that the UI is good, the program's good, Creality Print, there's some problems, and there are some UI user interface stuff that isn't as intuitive as I think it should be. So there still needs to be advancements on the system. Excuse me. Back to the latte. And there could be a lot of updates. Case in point, what I like about the K2 Plus is that if you have a problem, you'll get a QR code on the display, and you scan that with your phone. It takes you to the Creality page, and it lists all of the different error codes that then you have to scroll through and try to find the error code that is on your machine. And then you have to click on that link, and it will go to that page for that error and the troubleshooting steps and so on and so forth. So I think what they should do, Creality needs to take that a step further. Don't take me to the page that has all the error codes. If you're giving me a 2784 or whatever it is, and I click that on my phone, it should go to the page for that specific error code. And it doesn't. You have to scroll through, and they're not in alphanumeric order. They're in a different order. So, a lot of people complain about that. So let's talk about the ease of use for the users. And we need to get over that stuff. But Creality is indeed trying to compete with Bamboo, as are other companies. And the other thing that they're going to be doing is taking a look at the Creality Hi Combo. Does that look like an A1 or an A1 Mini? It kind of does. 16 colors CFS, so we'll have that capability, hands-off calibrations. Of course, that seems to be industry standard now. Let's see, what else do we got? Easy to start, 95% pre-assembled. Extruder, fast printing, 500 millimeters per second, 12,000 millimeters a second squared, all metal. So we can jumpstart into all of this, creative projects. I really don't like these websites that do this, because it's just, for me, it's just annoying. Read filament info. So in other words, I think it's going to have the RFID system on there. Yeah, RFID system, built-in sensor, automatically identify color and type, which some people, if I'm not mistaken, some people have already found out that they can do this on their own and make their own RFID tags for third-party filaments that it's automatically recognized. Is it a must thing? No, it's more of a user-friendly thing. And so, yeah, it is what it is. Dual lead screws, 1,000 watt heat bed, looks like about 25 points on there. Touch control, distinct sounds will keep you informed. Built-in buzzer will give off corresponding sounds when print task is finished or paused unexpectedly. I don't know about that. Maybe as, I'm kind of thinking this in two different ways, but maybe as a hobbyist, this would be good. Somebody's just doing it on their own and making their own little stuff. But if you're doing a print farm stuff, kind of, you've seen print farms with A1s and A1 minis, and you have racks of these things, you probably don't want buzzers going off. You want probably more of some type of light interface and letting you know, of saying, hey, this print is finished, printer is idle, printer area, have some 3 colors, and that could go that route. Yeah, fold away touchscreen. Okay, that's kind of good. Alrighty. Privacy camera with cap. Privacy is good. Built-in quality. So yeah, this is excuse me, metal extruder gears that we have, automated filament color, which looks wildly familiar to the K2 Plus, bed leveling sensors, integrated nozzle design. It just kind of looks like they took a lot of stuff from the K2 Plus and brought it into the Hi. Runout sensor. Okay, that's kind of interesting there. All right. Boosted FOC servo motors, acceleration 12,000. Okay. Creality print, completely rebuilt. All new AI, refreshing slicing experience, ready to go. 40 filament presets, multicolor, 3 MF model slicing, which is pretty nice. The one thing I like about this, about their Creality Cloud Studio and things like that, is kind of similar to the Bamboo ecosystem, is that you can download models and get these 3 MF files where everything is already set, so you don't have to mess with it. So in other words, it's just plug, play, go. They try to make it as user-friendly as possible. And of course, you should dial in your filament as best you can, especially if you're offering it as a print service or selling products. RFID tag is pretty good, and then we got some of the other stuff there. So we're looking at build volume is 260 by 260 by 300, so it's a little bit bigger than some of the Bamboo stuff. But really, it's just kind of a compact package. And if you get the combo, of course, the CFS, not real good as far as, the poop. Not so good as the poop going into play. But yeah, they're definitely going to be competing for that. And then when we're talking about pricing, what does that come out to? Let's take a look at that. $519. Thing that kind of bothers me, though, is the 20 reviews, 3 out of 5 stars. So it seems to me they need to do some work. So yeah, the Hi Combo $519. I don't know, if you just get it by itself, it's $369. And of course, you can always buy more stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. If you don't need a CFS system, I've seen a lot of print farms, and I've talked to a few people that do that, not here in Korea, but some people that I've met online and have at-length discussions similar to the A1 and the A1 Mini, just having racks of these things. Yeah, they're trying to be contenders, and they're trying to play the catch-up game. And with that being said, it is that Creality is trying to play the catch-up game, especially when it comes to the recently released Bamboo H2D. So that is going to be a thing there. And there's some rumors about this, the rumors of the H2D. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is supposedly a leaked photo from Creality in their shop, or whatever you want to end up calling it. And as we take a look at this, we've got the dual extruder there, the dual heads. 0.4, 0.4, and kind of similar to the bamboo is that looks like we've got that little shelf or that little arm that comes in there, and it tries to kind of cap off so that you don't get any ooze dripping off of there. We see two different color filaments, so we have that. It looks like we've got more metal gears and things like that, so that's kind of interesting. What else do we end up seeing? It's really hard because it's a photo of a presentation on a wall, but a clear cover case on the outside, which is kind of neat. That doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever, other than the whatchamacallit that we end up getting there. Let me see if we can get myself in there. There we go. So yeah, other than that, this is the rumored thing here for Creality, is having their dual extruder system. And if we take a look at the timeline, especially the K2 and the K2 Pro, which is supposed to be coming out the third quarter this year, just in time for the holidays, I honestly don't think that we'll see this year. I'd be very surprised if we do see a this dual system coming out with Creality this year. I think probably next year is more makes more sense, because they're still dealing with issues of the K2 Plus. They're doing firmware upgrades and all of that stuff. And then now you have the Creality Hi that came out, and of course now they got to go through the beta testing and that, and people are reporting this is problematic, this is this, there's all these issues. Hence probably the reason why it's got 3 out of 5 stars rating. So they're going to have to deal with that. And now add on to that the K2 and the K2 Pro, you're going to have similar issues with the brand new machines. And I think out of the majority of companies, Creality just doesn't get to the place of where they beta test their machines in-house, because they're trying to play catch up. And it seems like the norm in 3D printing companies, where they get to the place of where they say, you know what, we're going to release a machine, and we're just going to, the users are going to be our beta testers. And people like Grant from 3D Musketeers, you have Uncle Jesse and a number of other influencers and YouTubers and stuff like that talking about how they are sent machines, and basically they're expected. Nathan Builds Robots, he's mentioned this as well. And who's the Israeli guy? I can't remember his name. He's really good. But he had a big rant on that as well, as saying, hey, these companies are sending them the machines, and they're supposed to be doing a review, but they end up being basically doing the technical work and trying to fix these machines before they get released, and these people are not being compensated. So before it ends up that these people would just end up taking and being, the beta testers, they would be the people that would be, oh, this doesn't work and we're going to try to fix this, and they'd spend hours and hours and hours fixing these machines. And unfortunately, they weren't getting compensated. People were just happy that they were sent a machine by a company, and I'll help out if there's any problems. But then it started to get overwhelming, and now these companies are expecting and saying, hey, what's wrong with this? Well, can you fix this? And can you inform us? In other words, they're taking on the responsibility of being a contractor and expected to fix this machine for what? They're not being compensated for the numerous hours that they're putting in. And for somebody who, worked with contractors in the state of Colorado on various different levels in the Department of Corrections, in electronics, and we're talking about industrial, we're talking about building, we're talking about commercial codes and commercial industrial settings, everything from, I know it's cliche, but the Department of Corrections does have license plate manufacturing in Colorado. And I've actually worked on the machines, which are huge machines, old giant relays. And but then they also have fiberglass. They also have construction trades. They also have furniture warehousing. and building furniture and all this stuff. And then there's graphic design. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in the state of Colorado for rehabilitation purposes, but it's all at a commercial or industrial level. But the interesting thing is now these 3D printing companies are coming to the point of saying, hey, give these machines to these people, and instead of just doing a review, they're expected to fix the machine. And some of these influencers are talking about and saying, hey, that's not my job. I'll help out a little bit, but really it gets to the point of, I think these people that are so intelligent and have a lot of experience and can actually fix these machines and help these companies, there needs to be some money needs to change hands besides just getting a free machine. Because otherwise that machine would not be ready for release, and it would be in way worse condition than if they didn't help out. And like I said, Grant talked about this, Nathan Builds Robot has talked about this, that Israeli guy, Uncle Jesse's talked about it. There's a few other ones. What is it? CNC Kitchen has, I think, talked about it as well. And I totally agree. I think we're getting to the point of where companies need to do this on their own. And some of the flaws that we see in a lot of systems, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of things that should have been caught by the companies themselves are being found out by these influencers and reviewers. And they're like, yeah, I just don't have time to do this. I've had smaller Chinese companies contact me to do reviews, and I've had a couple of products that I haven't done, and it's like, hey, I got to send this back because this isn't working. And it ends up, what they ended up saying is, well, can you fix this? And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not the fix-it guy anymore. I'm the retired hobby tech guy. That's my title for a reason, because I'm retired. I will review the product, and that's what I want to do with this channel. But yeah, I'm not fixing stuff. And if something is broke out of the box and you expect me to fix it and then give a good review, yeah, that's not going to happen. So yeah, there's a big disconnect there. So I just find it very problematic with that. So yeah, we've gone over a lot of stuff, some interesting things, talking about the K2 Plus, the K2 Pro, which is coming out, the difference in the build size. One has a heated chamber, the other one doesn't. Creality Hi and the rumored dual extruder. And like I ended up saying, with the third quarter this year of the K2 and the K2 Pro coming out, that I doubt that the dual extruder system, kind of like the H2D from Bamboo, I don't think Creality is going to put that out this year. I think they're still, I'd be very surprised if they do. And if they do, unfortunately, I think it'll be a little bit too much for them. I think they'll have bitten off too much more than they should have, and that's going to reflect in a poorly or a rushed product brought to market. And it won't bode well. We saw, especially with the K1 series and some of the claims that they made, all metal extruder, and it wasn't all metal, and their own reviewers that they sent machines to found that out. So basically they lied and they said, well, it's all metal, and so all metal translates over to 10,000 clog-free hours. If you've been in 3D printing for a while, you know that's not a thing. And probably the one nozzle that gets clogged the most is the 0.4. So I just found that very problematic. That they would make this claim. But if you make the claim based on that it's an all-metal extruder and most of the pieces are not all metal, and then when I brought this to light, Creality changed and took that off of their website. And then I pointed out, you can look at my old videos, and then I pointed out on their Amazon page, they left that on there even though they changed it on their website. So I was a little miffed with that. But eventually they ended up changing their Amazon page, which took many, many months. So they were still advertising that all-metal extruder, and that's when I was researching. I thought about getting that K1, one of the K1 series. But when I found that out, and I informed Creality, and it was crickets. I contacted them on their WhatsApp. I contacted them on email, in their little contact form on their website and everything, their technical support, and asking about this, presenting this, saying, hey, well, how did you get this number of 10,000 clog-free hours? Is it based upon this all metal? No. So anyway, neither here nor there. But I don't think their dual extruder system is going to come out this year. I'd be very surprised. And if they do, it could be a problem. Could be a problem. I don't know. It just seems very. I don't think it will go well. I think it will probably come out next year, early next year, at the earliest, maybe spring, first, second quarter. But again, I'd probably have to look at probably a good indicator of when it might come out is when they release a lot of products and kind of, is it always in the third quarter, or the first quarter of the year, whatever it is. That would be interesting to look at. But honestly, I'm just not into that right now. So anyway, with that being said, are you interested in the Creality K2 or the K2 Pro? Is that something that piques your interest, or are there other systems that are like, yeah, it seems okay, but I'm gonna look into something else? Put that in the comment section down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And where do you think that the next big thing is going to come from? We already got Bamboo coming out. But I think people were a little dismayed with the Bamboo H2D because aside from their authorization system and all of that, but that the build area on that system just wasn't as big as a lot of people were expecting. I think a lot of people wanted a 350 cube build area, and they didn't. And when you have the dual extruders side by side, you're losing some real estate on each side. So it's kind of a malleable, flexible, situational ethics type thing when it comes in and saying, this is our build area. But it's dependent upon, disclaimer, if you're using this extruder or this one, it's going to cut off about 20 millimeters off of each side. So are you really getting that? Yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe, depending on the situation. Again, situational, depends on the situation. But I think other people were hoping that Bamboo and the H2D would have multiple extruders, kind of not like the Prusa XL. I don't know, maybe, but definitely, we wanted more than two. But nobody asked for the laser. Nobody wanted the vinyl cutter. Nobody wanted the pen plotter and all of these things that go with an H2D. And in case you didn't know, I'm just kind of rambling here. But nobody really asked for that. And I'm very active online. I chat with a lot of people. And being here in Korea, I'd get another perspective because I deal with a lot of people here in Korea, so I'm retired here, and Japan and things like that. And I've asked this question to the groups here, and the Koreans aren't interested in having a 3D printer with a laser module or with a cutter or with, those things. It just doesn't, it's not something they want. And it's surprisingly, I do laser cutting as well. Excuse me. But all of the debris that comes from lasering, acrylics and materials and wood and this and that, coated metals, cutting, all of that produces soot and smoke and debris, and that's going to get into every nook and cranny of your system. And if you look at the H2D maintenance that you have to do if you're using the lasers, basically you almost got to take the whole thing apart. And I don't think people see that, and of course, Bamboo doesn't highlight and say, hey, oh, by the way, on their webpage, you got to do all this awesome stuff you can do, but they never show you how much maintenance that you have to do. And then there's places that you can't get into that is constantly going to get gummed up with the debris that comes from laser engraving or cutting and doing all that stuff. So the people that I know that do side gigs, people that are just hobbyists, people that are Americans and, of course, Koreans here, I've had chat with them as well on the H2D. And is that something that they would want in that system, a laser engraver and all that other stuff? And they're resoundingly no. Everybody wants their own separate system because for laser engraving, light burn is the program that you use. And of course, if you have the H2D, you're locked into their software, their ecosystem, similar to the Xtool type of ecosystem. So they want to have their sandbox and nobody else can play in it. But people that do laser engraving, just hobbyists or even people that do business, and that is their sole business is doing laser engraving, they don't want a 3D printer with a laser engraver because it's too much maintenance. It doesn't make sense. If the main machine goes down, you lost your 3D printer and you lost your laser engraver. So, and again, the dirt and debris and the fallout from laser engraving and all that stuff is just not conducive to 3D printing, in my opinion. So I think it's just kind of a fad niche that they went into, and I just don't see it. It just doesn't give me a warm fuzzy. And that's me personally. That's just me. I don't know. But I do like the H2D and the fact that what it does with the dual head extruder, minimal waste and all of that. Again, Bamboo has some great machines. They're not the end all be all of 3D printing. They have their problems as well. But it's just, we really wanted just a big X1C. Yeah, and with the dual extruder, yeah, that would have been awesome, but we really just wanted a big X1C, but that's not what we got. So anyway, that's what we ended up doing. We talked about that, the Creality K2 Pro, the K2, the Hi, which is going through some growing pains as it's been beta released to the public, and then the rumored dual extruder I expect to, honestly, I think that's going to be next year. And that's probably going to be about the same price range as the H2D. Maybe a little cheaper than that because they want to try to steal that away. Get some people to say, hey, give me that, but just cheaper. But they have a lot of catch up to do, which is what is going on. So anyway, that is it. The new stuff that's coming out on the market for 3D printing. What I really wish is that, and I forget the name of it off the top of my head, unfortunately. It's early morning here. By the way, it's 6:19 on Monday. Gym day, but it's early. And yeah, I was really hoping for...
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No. But I was really hoping for a larger machine, multiple heads, kind of like the Prusa XL. And we haven't really seen a company take on Prusa, their XL with the 5 tool heads. But I think that's coming. I think there's going to there are companies working on that right now, and if they can get better than the Prusa XL as far as results, lighter, faster, the whole 9 yards, I think they will capture that. I think the Prusa XL is good. I don't have any experience with it, but from all the research that I've looked, it's just not there like the plug-and-play systems like Bamboo. It's not like Xtool. It's not like, a lot of companies that are just like out of the box, boom, there you go. It's not even enclosed, and the enclosure looks all janky anyway. So that's what we end up having. With that said, here is the email. So if you want to contact me about any information, I have successfully answered every single email, even from the crazy people, because we're all a little bit crazy. And so, yeah, you all count too. I count. We're all the same. But whether it's for 3D printing, whether it's for hobby, painting miniatures, things like that, or being retired in Korea overseas, people have contacted me for that. And there's a number of couples who have retired here in Korea like we did because of the videos, and they just didn't know it was possible. So I have that on my channel as well. So the biggest thing that I can ask is that you like and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, go to my YouTube page, The Buried Life, and like and subscribe to stay abreast of all the information that we have going on. And if you really want to do me a solid, everybody knows that I love my lattes. Got my own espresso machine, and you can buy me coffee. And these people, that little ticker that's kind of going by, all of those awesome people have bought me coffee, and I have much respect for them. You don't have to. I would prefer the like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, but if you want to buy me a coffee, I buy people coffees a lot, so it's almost kind of like a wash. But it works out. It's kind of cool. If you have any information, tips, tricks, playlists, videos, news sources on 3D printing or resin printing. I also do that as well to make me smarter, better, faster, less dumb than what I am. Please send that to me either in the comments section. If you send it via the email, I will 100% get it. I've got a lot of videos, and I'm getting to the point now with over 200,000 views that I can't answer every single comment, because I got videos like the first videos I did, and I just don't have that time of day. I'm retired, but I'm a busy retiree. 4 days a week I'm in the gym, about 2 or 3 hours. I've got a life outside of this, but yeah, if you really want to contact me, the email is the place to go. Oh, and by the way, I don't sell anything. Okay, for the retiree or anything, I don't sell anything as of yet. And I don't know if I will sell anything. I just kind of try to help people out and have fun. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you have a good week. For those people in the United States, it's still Sunday, so enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm going to start off, get ready and go to the gym, work arm day. Today's arm day. And leg day is a little bit later in the week. But we never skip leg day. So with that, we're going to say adieu. All have a good one. Peace, and keep on printing. Some good stuff. Thanks for watching.